So Whorlton Village Hall was the old Methodist chapel. It's about going on for 200 years old. Was taken over by the Church of England many years ago, and for the last, I think it's possibly 40 years, the Village Community Association has been running the hall in various forms. We re-signed the lease with the church about 4 years ago, which gives us a 21-year lease to run the hall for the village. Whilst, of course, it's still owned by the church. I joined the committee about 3 years ago, and the hall had been run for a long time without anyone really checking whether or not we were doing it properly. Of course, when you're getting trustees for a village hall, it's very unlikely that any of them will have had any sort of formal charity training. Um, and so it's very useful having the Hallmark facility to be able to draw a line, to have a checklist of what should be going on, how the hall should be run. Now, I have had some charity management training, but even I found there were things on that list that I hadn't really thought about. Um, so for me, it was a big, greatly increased my confidence that we're doing the right thing. And I thought also very useful for reassuring, particularly new trustees coming into the charity, that we were doing the job properly. Because I think that's, particularly these days with so much legislation and so on, that it's reassuring for people to know that they're joining an organisation which is being run properly.
Oh, that's brilliant. You've also received a grant from the Community Buildings Energy Efficiency grant. How has this helped the hall as well?
Well, hugely. You can imagine a building as old as ours takes a lot of maintenance, and also a lot of sort of cost to just keep it running. Um, we've been facing some huge fuel bills. I mean, I think when I first arrived in the village, we were paying 26p a litre for oil. That went up to almost four times that much. It's now down to 60 odd p. So the costs are significant. So we needed to find ways of trying to save energy and to keep our costs down. So what the grant enabled us to do is to go much further than we would have been able to do in order to do things right. We had very old and rotting single pane windows, which were just a massive heat sump. They've now been replaced with new double glazed units. You can feel the difference straight away with that. And the main thing we've done is we've been able to change all our old fluorescent lighting for far more efficient LED lighting units. So we're looking forward to comparing our electricity bills next year with the last with the last 12 months, because I think that will make quite a significant difference. I mean, obviously, without the grant, we could not have afforded to do both those projects. One of the advantages of the grant as well, I mean, I think we had to do an energy audit. The audit didn't really tell us anything we didn't know, but it was very useful for us to have it in black and white exactly what the issues were. And again, that gives us a firm basis for going forward for doing future things. And one of the things we'll have to do with the hall, of course, is because we still run off an oil boiler, is at some stage in the future, we're going to have to address that issue. So, yeah, whatever we can do to save energy between now and then is going to be worthwhile.
Oh, that sounds great. Um, Obviously, when I visited, it seemed like the village was a very tight knit community. How has the community repaint scheme and the partnership work with Trades for Care
Oh,
helped?
that was superb actually. So you remember when we spoke. So one of the problems we have in this village is we have very few children here. Um, so for us, for me, seeing Trades for Care and seeing the reports of other community work they've done, they seem like the obvious fit. So for us as a charity, primarily looking after the older generation, to be able to link with a charity looking after the younger generation, for me that's very important. and frankly, they did a superb job. I mean, we were absolutely delighted with the results. Um, the fact that we were also using the community repaint scheme, using the recycled paint, not only did it save us money because it's far cheaper than just buying paint off the shelf, but again, it just enabled us to use recycled paint, stuff not going to waste. So yeah, it's good, and it was very well received. We had quite good coverage in the local newspaper from that.
Oh, brilliant. And finally, what are the next steps for the hall?
So the thing with the hall now is we need to really consolidate our trustee base and to go forward. Um, we have very few trustees who actually run the hall. Um, we have a fantastic group of volunteers who are able to give their time to help put on events and whatever. But the core people who are actually running the hall is very small. So we're desperately trying to encourage more people to come in. So the hallmark, being able to say we are fully accredited and et cetera, that is a big positive for that. But it is being proven quite difficult. What I'd like to see now is to having a nice brand spanking new redecorated hall, try and get more users in. We have some standard classes. We have a yoga class. We're used by an art teacher on occasion as part of her PhD work. You know, we have a local businessman who uses it for recording. There's very good acoustics in there. Um, and we have a regular coffee morning for the village, which brings a lot of people from the village, which is great. And for me, is actually probably one of the most important things we do as a focus point. What I want to try and do is to get more people into the hall to use it and build up our trustee base. I think a lot of people will take a little snapshot at they see we do this or we do that, and it may be something we may put on. We had a very successful jazz evening back in January, which the hall was packed. Yeah, it was a new recreated New Orleans jazz hall. It was fantastic. But if you don't like jazz, you don't actually see the importance of that. And I think it takes, in my position as the chairman and my wife, who is the hall manager, we see the entirety of the benefit, and it's trying to get that message across. So that's what we're trying to focus on at the moment, and to make sure the hall, continues for as long as we possibly can.